Recent Finweek cover story around revolutionising a small business sector in South Africa has met with a lot of heated debate amongst its readers. We take a look at some of the key learnings from the article and try to identify how to take the small business and entrepreneurship debate forward. We're joined by Arthur Goldstuck, Managing Director at Worldwide Worx. That was a bit of a tongue twister for me. I don't know what was going on there. But just take us through the 5 ways that you came up with that the businesses can use to zoot up their businesses.
Okay, so we actually looked at it from a big picture environment. So we said, yes, South Africa's got this really big issue. It needs to change its small business sector. It needs to take some really big decisions and things that are going to have not just impact now, but they're going to impact 5, 10, 15 years down the line. So we came up with 5 major ideas. One of them was introducing an entrepreneurship school, so basically teaching high-level entrepreneurship and generating experienced entrepreneurs. And I think this is different from looking at simply these entrepreneurship degrees, teaching guys to run their businesses, giving them internships within small businesses, developing the actual ability to run a business. Second one was introducing a startup visa, which is something that the Kaufman Institute in the US has been pushing for. Basically, if you're a foreigner and you come into South Africa, you can and you can employ 5 to 10 people, that you can get immediate citizenship. Third one was a state-owned ISP, internet service provider. Basically, the theory is quite simple. There, we were looking at the idea that you could. Technology basically empowers small businesses. It flattens the competitive landscape. Give them access to internet, give them access to websites. You could change the impact on South Africa. Fourth one was looking at tax incentives. If you are running a small business and you hire 5 people under the age of 21, what will be the impact of that? And then the last one, this was quite a contentious one, and it was written intentionally to generate quite a lot of debate around it, was to say for every new business, you have to introduce a black empowerment partner. And I think that was one of the issues that, and I think you have to understand that we're not talking about simply giving away portions of business. The idea was to introduce high-impact black entrepreneurs with an ownership level into the middle class of Africa, because ultimately that is where wealth is going to get created. The next generation of wealth is going to be created. I know we don't have a lot of time to discuss it now, but I think one of the issues that we thought was quite topical, and one of the things that actually received quite a lot of interest, was the concept of a state-owned ISP specifically aimed at generating, giving internet access to small businesses, and we're talking micro-enterprise here. Give them access to internet, give them access to a website, low to no cost, and it can be done in theory. But I think I'd be interested to hear Arthur's views on this. Yeah,
can it be done? I mean, government, we know, says they want, I think 2020 is the goal when it comes to universal broadband access in South Africa. But we know there's issues with telecom. We know there's cost of data right now. Where are we in the process?
Well, the goal for universal broadband access by 2020 is truly a pipe dream, because there aren't enough pipes to serve that particular requirement. So it's a very simple factor that infrastructure development is just not keeping pace with that vision, and that vision has remained for a long time now pure lip service. We have an agency called Universal Services Agency that has the task of, in fact, ensuring communications technology for all in this country. But the only thing that they have succeeded in achieving is being a collections agency for the license fees that the mobile networks pay to stay in business. And those license fees are supposed to fund universal connectivity in this country. And that's well over R1 billion available now in the Treasury for that purpose, and simply lying fallow. So there's the starting point. You can start investing in that kind of service. The money is there. You could almost call that the seed capital. But when you look at the kind of money that is spent or wasted on numerous infrastructure projects, which are dubious to start with and seem to be designed to distribute tender money, this is an area where you will see an impact. The moment you connect people and you connect them at speed, you start seeing greater economic activity. It's not even a debate anymore. You could argue about the specific impact it makes in percentage terms, but you can't argue that it doesn't make an impact. So you give every micro enterprise in this country high-speed internet access, and you're going to see their competitiveness increase as well. And just to put that in context, 15 years ago, it was a debate whether you should be connected to the internet as a small business. 10 years ago, the debate was what technology should you be using, because being connected was a ticket to the game. you had to be connected if you wanted to simply operate or compete as a small business. Today, that debate has shifted to how fast a connection can you have. So every small business virtually has an internet connection, but many of them are still connected in very poor ways. And those who are highly competitive are the ones who have high-speed connectivity, can afford that connectivity, and also, and this is very important, don't have a cap on their usage. That cap on ADSL is in fact a cap on competitiveness in South Africa as well.
Yeah.
Arthur, when we chatted over the phone, you mentioned to me that you support the concept of a state-owned ISP, but specifically for certain functions, and you mentioned the rural, the underserviced areas where perhaps the, spectrum is an issue, and where the private service providers, they don't have the capacity to service that area. Could you elaborate on that?
Yes, there's a deep irony in that in the rural areas, spectrum is very underutilized. So in other words, there's almost an oversupply of spectrum, but there's an undersupply of organizations or entities that can deliver that spectrum to the end user. And the reason is simple. It's because it's not economical for commercial entities to harness that spectrum and provide connectivity. So there's a clear case for government to step in and for state-owned ISP to invest in bringing connectivity to the rural areas, to disadvantaged communities, but also
and use that 1 billion rand.
For sure. But what's also important there is businesses that can afford connectivity but don't have access to it because the infrastructure simply isn't there would benefit enormously from it. So mines, construction, transport businesses and the like, but also local retailers, small farmers and the like will all benefit from it. And as you say, the money is there.
And I think that one of the things that is interesting is that a lot of the soft side of it, the software, I mean, you can set up a WordPress website for next to nothing, host it for next to nothing, and all you need is it's that connectivity side of it that ultimately plays into the entrepreneurship debate, because everything else is there, it's sitting waiting. All the entrepreneur needs is connection to the web.
Correct. And as any family with kids has discovered, the more bandwidth you have, the more intensively it will be used. And that happens in the broader world as well, in the business world too. The more bandwidth companies have and the more capacity they have, data capacity, storage capacity and the like, the more they'll use it and the more it will enhance their own business and their ability to operate and compete.